Um, Smasher. They taking meds.
Yup, that's me. You might be wondering how I got into this situation, flying into a river in a truck in a Russian Afghanistan mission. Well, it all started with a little game called Squad, the realism-based military tactical first-person shooter video game. It is home to a large community, often deemed a subset of the greater mil-sim or military simulator community, gaming community. Although Squad slightly strays from the typical dead-set realism of other titans of this genre, such as the titular Arma 3, it still maintains a balance between simulation and enjoyable gameplay, depicting modern warfare between both military and paramilitary factions. It draws from the more arcade-like titles of the past, such as the Battlefield games, most notably seen in the expansive Battlefield Squad features. Squad, as the title implies, features team-based gameplay designed to encourage communication, exemplified through its inclusion of TeamSpeak or communication between other players. Squad members can communicate with one another, as well as with other squads in their faction, as well as with their opponents, granted they are in close proximity to them. Players in squads choose specific roles which feature military niches such as suppressive fire or medical assistance. Squads must complete the objectives of a certain game mode and usually must construct structures such as a forward operating base or FOB for the rest of this video to aid them in their mission. The Milsim community in Squad is drawn in by its diverse set of playable factions, from real militaries such as the People's Liberation Army, PLA, or United States Marine Corps, to fictional representations of more general roles such as insurgents, Western PMCs, Eastern PMCs, Middle East Alliance, etc. Squad is played on a set of servers, some modded, incorporating aspects from other IPs, such as Star Wars Clone Wars or Starship Trooper servers. Some servers include even more playable factions, which did not make the main cut of the game. Players often frequent regular servers, which often have tied in Discord servers. Discord is often the unofficial connecting hub for Milsim players, attempting to find people to join them in their virtual military escapades. Subject Position. Regarding myself, I am a 19-year-old De Anza political science major in my second year at De Anza College, and like 70 to 80% of the squad player base, I am a dude. This simple fact creates a massive bias. It is factual that mostly men play squad, which does impact what people say to one another. Another bias is the languages spoken in a game of squad. Typically, players speak English, even if joining from other countries, such as France, Germany, or even Indonesia. I only speak English, so I doubt it will be a complicating factor when partaking in this study. Another aspect is regarding myself. My mother is Polish and my father Bolivian. Often in military circles, jokes often focus on darker subjects regarding race or death. When life is at risk, such as in military environments, people often joke about more dicey subjects. What is interesting is that this humor has manifested within online FPS circles as well. Experience that I have had in Call of Duty or Battlefield lobbies proves that when online and with a military setting, even if digital, that humor resurfaces. I doubt I would be overtly upset regarding jokes about Bolivians or Polish people, however, it is worth noting. I have been playing video games for more than a decade now. In that time, however, I have not necessarily been a part of many gaming circles, particularly online. I wonder how my lack of experience when it comes to this genre of game, being rather unforgiving, will impact how the other community members view me and how I view them. Going into this study, I feel somewhat frustrated regarding my view of Milsim players. In my experience, people are often very invested in the intricacies and specifics when it comes to a game like this, but will not continue that interest in real life. In some ways, I am like this as well. There is nothing intrinsically bad regarding people being heavily invested in the military while also refusing to join it. It just feels a little strange to myself. I really do wonder, however, if this is just my own opinion or if people focused on this game are actually interested in the military. I also wonder what the overlap is between military veterans and players of Squad. Online gaming, from my experience, cultivates community between people who often would not meet otherwise. It offers an escape for many people, and I have used online spaces as a way to reach out to people with like-minded interests, and I feel as though this is what is happening in the milsim community as well. How often do you meet someone with the exact same interests as yourself, especially in something as specific as, for example, the Turkish army and how they operate? I wonder to what extent these games are recruitment tools or even coping tools for veterans. I think my biases are most notable when discussing political topics, and as I will not be doing that, I believe it will not interfere with the study. I often do not let emotions get in the way of something like a study. It is impossible to completely dismiss biases, but I think by focusing on the presence of them beforehand, I can really limit their influence as much as possible on the actual study. Squad players, as mentioned earlier, often accumulate on Discord, where many like minded people can coordinate joining the same server. I've had Discord for a while, but I've never been a big fan. I usually use it to talk to my old high school friends, for example. Although an online research site has its benefits, I do have a bias against Discord and using it will have its issues. Methods and evidence. Thus brings us to the squad themselves and the escapades that follow. I spent 1 week battling alongside squad players found on the squad Discord, working through the numerous problems that faced us. I got to know some players well during my time fighting alongside them in this virtual setting. What you're about to witness is the recordings and accounts of my observations regarding these squad players, the hierarchies they form, and what brings them to this online battlefield. Finding a suitable server with a tied-in Discord was challenging. First, we ventured to a modded server, hoping to record the squad experience, which goes just as well as you might expect. Ukrainian-based map, immediate chaos. No one in sight except for artillery and non-stop fire. Yeah, this is not going to work here. Next server. Finnish server! Hopefully this one is a lot more chill. Larger map, Finnish-based map, less chaotic factions, Eastern European insurgents versus Americans. What could possibly go wrong here? Whenever Slavic insurgents or warlords get into the news, it's always interesting. So we'll see how this one goes. We go ahead first and join our squad and choose a spawn. Immediately, people are pretty crude in what they say. I've been in this server for less than 5 minutes before the humor I mentioned before surfaces.
You know, since you're commander, can you advise me best on how to suck my without breaking my ribs?
You could get somebody else to do it for you instead, and then it'd be much easier.
Would you do it for me?
I'm gay.
So, perfect.
I like kids.
Whoa! I'm not buying it.
That's where we draw the line, that's crazy.
This server is linked to the Easy Company Discord, which shares many members with the Squad Discord. Good place to find squaddies. We venture underground, where we have a pretty good team building opportunity, before everyone begins to panic as the Americans are somewhere in the tunnels.
They're above us. They're above us, boys. They're above us.
I decide to respawn near a new squad to get some more perspective.
Uppies, come on.
Uppies. We have our first interaction with a rather wholesome squad out by main base. They are waiting for the rest of their squad while building player towers. How y'all doing today?
Not bad.
Oh, pretty good.
That's good. You know, currently I'm doing a study on squad, actually, for college.
If you're spawn 7.
Oh, that's
So-
cool.
Let's go find let's grab one of these.
I decided to get into the same car as them and travel to the objective. In the downtime, I go ahead trying to get some questions answered while we sit in this truck. So how many people here actually have like military experience?
Oh,
Not it.
slightly. I ran for basic, but I'm going back into the mid.
Rally up. Spawn when necessary.
For your squad study, have you just been like polling players and just asking a bunch of questions?
Yeah, I was actually joining some servers actually and like interviewing people, but right now I'm kind of just trying to get like footage of like talking to people to make
Oh, right.
a video out of it.
What's up?
Another squatty comments once I elaborate on this study regarding the milsim community and his opinions on it.
Yeah, this is a great game for like anthropology stuff because I feel like the military sim like community is such a tight knit community.
Closing out my analysis, I like to hark back to a comment made earlier on how Squad was more fulfilling than other FPS titles. In my time, the gameplay loop, the average gameplay a player does, was often boring, to be honest. A few games in, we meet our main subject and viewpoint into squad dynamics. One, La Zaga, seen on both Discord and in Squad. On screen now is clips of one of our games together, fighting in a map based on Afghanistan. It was pretty uneventful outside of the fact that me and La Saga had some pretty good conversations, and this was the lead up to our Discord conversation. Eventually, we made time after a match for some questions on Discord, and this is how that went. Have you ever had any military experience, or has anyone in your family ever been in the military?
I think like the closest person in my family that's ever been in the military was like my great uncle who was in the Air Force in and he served in Vietnam. And my grandpa was in the National Guard for like 10 years, I think. But besides that, no.
Um, has Squad or games like it influenced your perception of and a relationship of or relationship with the military?
I think so. I think it's kind of been like propaganda sort of in a way. Like, I mean, because I'm, planning on doing ROTC and going into the army straight out of college. And I mean, squad wasn't like the thing that made me go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. But I think it's kind of encouraged that decision a little.
Do you feel obligated to follow the roles you choose in the squad? Like, for example, if you were to choose squad leader, would you feel like guilty if you were like a bad squad leader?
Um, Guilty is not the right word because there's like such a it's so low stakes. It's just a video game. You're not gonna feel guilty, but I think if that's what you're doing, then that's what you're supposed to do. And like, if I don't know if guilty is the right word, but if I like chose that role and then like I didn't do anything with it and I just did like the exact opposite of what I was supposed to do, I'd kind of feel like a drag on my team and like I was just, not contributing anything. I just kind of feel like an idiot.
I mean, how would you feel if like you were picking like automatic rifleman or something, and then you just like walked around the map or something, and you didn't like you kept trying to get into close combat or whatever?
I think it kind of depends on the team. Like if the team was taking it super seriously and I wasn't, like I'd be kind of like I just can't see that happening because I'm, voluntarily in the game and I'm doing the hardest I can. But
Uh-huh.
like I think if the team wasn't taking it seriously, I'd be more inclined to do that. Like I have done that, but like if the team was really communicating and working it out well, then like that's definitely um not necessarily pressure, but that's kind of like an indicator that you should be doing something. And that's what makes a game fun is that like teamwork and playing as your role.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I see that. So what brings you to Squad compared to like COD or Battlefield or any other FPS? Like why a game that is kind of like a little bit slow at times, you know?
You have to like use your brain more, I think, and it's really, really I mean like it can be incredibly boring. Like you walk around for 20 minutes and then like you just die and then like you have to respawn and just repeat that process a couple times. But when everyone's working together and like you're coming together and you're kind of like tactically thinking it out and like you're directing machine gun fire and a guy with a rocket's doing his job and the squad leader's communicating with other squads and it's all working. It's incredibly rewarding and more rewarding than anything that, Battlefield or Call of Duty like has to offer, like something that's, more catered to shorter attention spans and shorter like action loops, I guess. Kind
Uh-huh.
of have to offer. It's just it's so much there's so much more depth and so much more like nuance to it.
Yeah, I do see that. Um, what do you usually like want to do in Squad? Like if you could really do anything, like what would you want to do?
It kind of depends on the mood, honestly. Like I've been I think probably the what I've done the most is either squad leading as a squad lead because like not many people want to do that voluntarily, and I know that I'm okay at that. Like, so that's something that I'll do just to help out the team and try to direct people. And then like if I can't do that, then I'll try to be like an anti-tank guy, because that's it's just kind of cool. Like you get an RPG and you can just shoot targets that other people can't shoot. So you're not like missing out on stuff, and you kind of have more of an opportunity to have a larger impact on the battle overall, because it's like immobilizing a tank is going to do a lot more than just like shooting some random dude.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, well that's all my questions. Thank you. With the interview wrapped up, Lasaga and I went on to join another server. Sadly, this time my recording bugged, so I wasn't able to record the gameplay of conversations in this game. The footage seen here is from previous games. Nonetheless, I gained insight through this group of squaddies as well. To set the scene, it is Australia versus Russians, in a map based on Western Russia. We are currently sitting in a truck, positioning where the firefights are happening. With a captive audience at a set. Hey guys, I'm doing an Anth2 project for school and squad. Do you guys want to answer some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, I'll give you like 1 second. Anyone in your family ever like been involved in the military?
Yeah.
My friend's
my
in
grandpa was in
ROTC.
Nam in Korea.
Awesome, awesome.
Does the kick hit count?
I mean, I got my
My
leg
cousins
blown
are
off
part
in
of the
Korea, but
Afghanistan.
that's about it.
So why do you guys choose to play squad instead of like COD or like Battlefield or something else?
I prestige 5 times on COD.
It's more realistic, more fulfilling,
What's
less
COD?
13-year-olds.
I played
Low
for
better.
you guys because I love you guys.
The only shooters I really play are Crossfire and Squad.
What about Hell Let Loose? You guys like that game? That's a great game.
Yeah, oh my
I
god.
love
pretty
Hell
good
Let
game.
What's that?
Love Hell Let Loose. I
It's
maxed that
crazy. I
game.
got 50. Yeah.
We played a few more games with some more notable moments. Now with these experiences and squaddy perspectives, what does this all portray exactly? Analysis and conclusions. After a week of hanging out with these Discord squaddies in multiple games, having multiple moments of teamwork and communication, I feel as though I have walked away with a greater understanding of this seldom discussed but very interesting community. During my time with the squaddies, one aspect stood out to me: the hierarchies that form regarding the roles players choose in a squad. Players adopt in-game roles in a squad and feel obligated to fulfill them. How well a player fills this role determines how effective a squad is and improves teamwork. Viewing through an anthropological perspective, agency allows us to gain a greater understanding of this phenomenon. Players have the agency to do whatever they want. However, working together and playing to each other's strengths improves how much work a squad can do, also how effective they can be in a game. There is nothing obligating someone who, for example, chooses the anti-tank role to actually target tanks. Nonetheless, usually people fill these roles to the best of their ability. Players can go lone wolf and walk around the massive map and attempt to play the game alone, but this is almost always a terrible time. Players can also pick a certain role and then do whatever they want, due to their agency, but often they do not. The squad leader does not have anything intrinsically special to him, but still takes on a greater role in commanding members of said squad. During my games, one event stood out to me that proves this. I was an anti-tank role, and I stumbled upon a tank. I had spent my entire game searching for something to use my role on, but as I was separated from my squad, the rest of my team, I was not able to use a majority of my role. That was until another squad arrived. They used their role, which allowed them to give me more ammunition for my anti-tank weapons, and together we were able to destroy this tank in front of us. Once even more anti-tank players arrived as well, we were effectively able to work together and form a sort of teamwork and team building, following into our chosen roles, allowing us all to achieve our goals in the game. Even though we could have worked alone, teamwork is encouraged by the simple fact that it helps us all. People seem to partake in Squad over other first-person shooter games due to personal interest or past experience. For example, squaddies mostly played games similar to Squad, such as Arma 3 or Hell Let Loose. These games all fall into the mil-sim genre, so it's not surprising to find that players of Squad also love these games. Mil-sim players seem to wish to keep the somewhat realistic gameplay of these games intact when finding other games besides Squad to play. This explains the personal interest, but not the past experience factor of this. Of the Squad players I interviewed, most did not have military experience, but were nonetheless interested in the mil-sim genre. It appears that most of the appeal is, as one player put it earlier, the tight-knit community. A community of people who share similar interests, such as games focusing on military realism, is hard to find in your day-to-day. But in this online space, these like-minded people congregate. This understanding explains why milsim players appear to frequent online spaces, like Discord or game chat, rather than in personal simulation. Thus brings us to another applicable anthropological perspective. Function. Functions refer to biological or psychological needs for a certain thing to be done, as usually in a survival context, such as food, water, shelter, etc. One need everyone needs to some extent is social interaction. Even if we do not want to admit it or appear to like it, at some level human beings need to interact with other human beings, lest our mental health takes a hit. Loneliness and ostracization occur when people don't interact with one another. This interaction, however, can exist in an online space. As mentioned earlier, people enjoy discussing similar interests, and when you can easily meet others who share those interests online, or share similar experiences to yourself, people often choose to do that. Squad and games in its genre serve that role of providing a way for people to fulfill that psychological need. The creation of these squad servers, Discord groups, and even to an extent the humor featured in interactions between players serve that psychological function to fulfill the greater need of social interaction. Returning to humor, during the squad games, players did the typical FPS discussions, such as bringing up topics usually considered crass or inappropriate. These discussions mirror real-life military humor and focus on the previously mentioned darker topics. It appears that this humor appears both as an extension of that, whether for roleplay reasons or trying to fit in with veterans, and as a byproduct of online discussion. For most players, the people you yell the most obscene and abhorrent things to will never be seen by you again. Not to say that the banter in Squad is rude or mean-spirited. In my multiple games, military simulator players were nothing but welcoming, even if often bantering about topics that would get you bleeped on TV. It's just the way people interact on these game servers, possibly indicating through humor and niche references to other games, films, and military terminology that they are in the military simulator in-group. Closing out my analysis, I like to hark back to a comment made earlier on how Squad was more fulfilling than other FPS titles. In my time, the gameplay loop, the average gameplay a player does, was often boring, to be honest. Lasaga even points this out in his interview answers. However, in my brief time with these players, it really does seem to boil down to community. As Lasaga also highlighted, when these players come together and work together despite their agency, those fulfilling gameplay points are in fact hit. You may have also noticed the extensive use of TeamSpeak in the gameplay clips. TeamSpeak works not only for the squad, but also for anyone near you. Often, enemy players would cry out before being shot, or say something jokingly before you faced one another. TeamSpeak allowed you to easily work with friendly players in your faction who may not be in your squad. It allowed you to both hear the dynamics of other squads who often knew each other extensively and also get a glimpse into the dynamics between other squads. If not for TeamSpeak, a lot of the questions and answers during this video would not have been possible. During our gameplay, Lasaga informed me of saying on TeamSpeak, "Is anyone there?" which earned the confident, no, from an enemy player. Although this was a failed attempt at trickery, it did open the possibility for enemies to use their TeamSpeak to influence their opponents. It did create some interesting battle moments nonetheless. Teamwork in squad relies on mutual trust. Eroding that trust would prevent a squad from acting cohesively, which, as we saw earlier in this video, would surely lose them the game. Squad and the milsim community as a whole is tight-knit. It is a player base of people with a passion for the military, even if it's not a part of it, but more so for those looking to interact with those with like-minded interests. People love the sense of community, and I really felt it during my time with Squaddies. The gameplay loop and the aspects that promote that feed into the sense of team building and communication that makes this community fun to be around. It is an interesting rabbit hole to experience with some insightful conclusions to be taken from the experience.